Now, one person had a dream where they were surrounded by Essani beings and they were told that they're getting a promotion and that it would involve a lot more responsibility. And the person felt a lot of fear about whether they could accept that level of responsibility. Could you give us an idea of maybe what the interpretation of that kind of a dream would be?
Well, in a sense, it's kind of like saying, here is a reflection of more of your own true energy. Do you have a belief system that allows you to know you are capable of handling it and expressing it in a positive and responsible way? So it's sort of like presenting someone with their potential and finding out where their belief system is relative to the potential they're being shown to see if they're ready to flow that potential through themselves. They don't have to be, but it's a good marker to show them where they're at with respect to their understanding and belief system about their ability to flow the energy they're being presented with, to be more of themselves.
Okay. All right, these questions have to do with metaphysics. One of them having to do with why do we cross-connect to other lives and then interpret that as being a quote-unquote past life? And how does that influence us when we make a cross-connection to another life?
Well, you're always sort of gathering information that you may need to inform your own experience here in this life. So the idea of connecting to other beings in what you call different time frames has a lot to do with how you actually create your physical reality anyway. Remember that, as we said, the idea that you experience space and time are illusionary side effects of your consciousness shifting through billions of parallel frames of reality every single second. So because you're shifting through different frames of parallel realities anyway to create the idea of your physical space-time reality experience, you're automatically connecting and disconnecting with different beings, different versions of yourself and other beings in these different parallel realities to inform the track you're on based on the themes you chose to explore and the challenges that you chose to face in this life. So you're drawing from a number of sources to aid and assist you. It's sort of similar to the idea of your internet in that if you need a particular piece of information, you will Google it. So it's really no different than saying, well, I need a certain kind of experiential inspiration right now, and since that already exists in a parallel reality, instead of having to learn it from scratch, why not just tap into it and download that information so I'll automatically, synchronistically get the inspiration to move forward in the way that I need to, so I don't necessarily have to go through a longer process than I need at this particular moment.
Okay, and this is an interesting question, the idea of electrons in our auric field.
Yes.
Whether or not the people we're attracted to energetically may be out of balance in a number of electrons, and we're out of balance in a number of electrons, and that's where an attraction is created? Is that?
Well, yes and no. It can be used that way. It's one way in which you can interpret the idea of the electron field that is just above your skin and part of the auric field around your body electromagnetically. But depending upon the spin rate of those electrons will determine many different things, including possibly, potentially, in certain cases, ideas of attraction or even ideas of repulsion. Just depends on how they're spinning, what rate they're at, the rate of spin, the direction of spin, can be included in the overall vibrational sensing that you get in terms of whether or not it is important for you or germane or relevant for you to interact in certain situations with other people.
So does each version of us have a different higher self?
Yes. Because remember, the idea of a being, a person, so to speak, in the classical sense of a part of a consciousness experiencing physical reality is what goes hand in hand with that. What is automatically contained in the kit is the non-physical higher self that guides that particular personality. And that means you also, for each person, have a particular individual soul, because it's the soul that diversifies itself into the non-physical higher mind to guide the physical mind having the physical experience. Where it gets more blended together is in the idea of the oversoul, from which many singular souls can extend. and each individual soul thus creating a higher mind and a physical mind for that particular physical incarnational experience. But the Oversoul can simultaneously experience all of that if it wishes to.
So when we were originally hybridized by the Anunnaki,
Yes.
what changes did they make to us that were some positive and some negative that are still with us today that we're dealing with?
It is highly likely you would not have the religious structure that you have in certain religious organizations if you didn't have that experience, because what was instilled in the genetic makeup at that time was the idea that you are required to rely on the idea of an authority figure as an intermediary between you and your connection to all that is. Therefore, that's what the religious construct is all about. Not the spiritual construct, but the religious construct of an organization that acts as a go-between between you and your connection to all that is, whereas the spiritual one does not require, as you would say, a middleman.
Did they suppress our DNA in certain ways to make us feel disconnected from Source?
To some degree, because they needed to impose themselves as the Source. Now, those markers are there and they're opening up, and you are realizing more and more that you have your own connection because you are reflections of Source. So the idea really was relatively temporary, and when the Anunnaki left and left you on your own to your own devices, and some of the more positive ones came back to guide you a little bit here and there, they knew that over time, because of the different cycles on the earth and the idea of the expansion of consciousness in general, that those markers would probably drop away or turn back on in a way that would allow you more recognition of yourselves as reflections of Source, not necessarily requiring the so-called middleman or authority figure anymore to determine your relationship to all that is.